Okay. August 9th. That's calendar part 1.
It's nothing. It's for political science. Political stuff.
Between the two walls.
Last year I bought much. Give me an idea of what you expect. How many people live there? I don't know. That gives me a good idea. Like 90 of everything, 90 households, 90 hamburgers. $77.
Got it. I'm doing well. Good. All right, leave it all there. Michelle? Nothing on the horizon. Are you doing that now? So we're up to Joe? Or?
Michelle's here. Jim also.
Yes, we're going to give her a minute.
Yeah, you wanted to talk later about, let's talk later with her, okay? Because I think there's maybe the light's coming through the clouds, I don't know. Maybe. But Tim mentioned to me, but we met on it this morning, so we should all talk with us. If you're good with that, we'll update you on where it is.
Yeah, she just went, she said she'd be right back.
Hi, Frank.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if everyone would find seats, we will begin. Councilwoman, I should say, Johnson will be joining us very shortly. In the meantime, we will begin by asking Mr. Altadonna to kindly poll the board.
Supervisor Vendetta,
I am here.
Councilman Muscarella,
Here.
Councilman McEnroe,
Here.
Councilman Cashingano, here. Councilman Pinto,
Here.
Councilwoman Alessia, and Councilwoman Johnson.
She'll be here momentarily. Ladies and gentlemen, if everyone would please rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag, led by Councilman Joe Pinto.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Mr. Altadonna, if you would begin by calling the regular action calendar.
Sure, may I have a motion to adopt resolution?
Oh, wait a minute. Boy, oh boy. I'm anxious to get to work here. Before we proceed to the call of the regular action calendar, we have some pleasantries, which we would like to put forth. And Councilman Catrignano, you've got number one. I'll do number two.
Supervisor, this time I'd like to invite Mike Polanski from the Greater Long Island Runners Club to come up and talk about your annual Supervisors 5K.
Well, actually, it's your annual Supervisors 5K.
That's what I meant. I was talking to him.
Oh, okay. Thank you, everybody. I was just here a few weeks ago, but my friend Rebecca wasn't here for that meeting, so I had to come back. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Supervisor, and Chris, thank you as well for supporting the entire town board, of course, the Oyster Bay Town Supervisors Run, which will be on Saturday, October 15th. It's one of the largest 5-kilometer runs on Long Island. It is the USA Track and Field Long Island Association 5-kilometer championship for this year and every other year. It's an amazing event, and this year it's even more special because Councilman Casignano will be using it as a fundraiser for Autism Speaks.
Oh, wow.
It's Autism Speaks is an amazing organization. Autism is a scourge that it's an awful thing, and there are a lot of things that can be done to combat it. And I'm really pleased that, Chris, that you've chosen that as a vehicle for raising funds for Autism Speaks. We really appreciate it.
All right.
Mike, thank you. the applause should actually go to you, because through your great works and the town support, the last few years you've let me raise money as I've tried to get through my run at the 5K. Somehow I get through it each year. I'm not the best runner, but
We're looking for a personal best from you this year, however.
oh, that was last year actually.
I know,
but
well-
in the past we've raised money for the Wounded Warriors and for the fight against Lou Gehrig's disease, and last year the Ronald McDonald House. So this year will be Autism Speaks, and thank you, because without you it can't be done at all.
Actually, the one to thank is the executive director of our organization, Linda Taviano.
Thank you, Linda. It's a great partnership. The supervisor was very gracious in allowing me to introduce you, but it's been a great relationship, and I know this whole board feels the same way from the top down. So thank
And
you.
I'd like to see all of you running on October 15th.
I have trouble driving. I have to second what Councilman Casciano said. We do our part. I'm not going to deny that, but it's a relatively small part. You're the driving force behind it, you and your organization. So we thank you. It makes the town a better place when this event occurs. Can you do something, though, about covering Casciano's legs during the race? As a sight to behold. What do we need to do? We need to take a little
take a photo, yeah.
pre-publicity photo,
Yep.
whatever. Mr. O'Malley, you're going to do the honors? Okay, what do we need for the photo? Who do we need? The whole board? Everybody? Okay, let's do it. Oh, wow.
My daughter runs for me to my town. Embarrasses you.
Chris, you gonna run?
Okay, I'm gonna take 3. Here we go.
Sister and my daughter run, isn't that enough?
Okay. Now. All right. I guess on I don't know if it's a more serious note, but somewhat of a bit dramatic note. We have 4 of our, we'll call it, generally speaking, our lifeguards here. They have different ranks, of course. And I'm going to ask them to come forward. Staff Lifeguard George Ritter. It's actually George Ritter Jr. Lieutenant Stephanie Levine, Lieutenant Anthony Toscano, and Staff Lifeguard Jennifer Lander. Come on, all 4 of you, come on up front. If you would just maybe stand off to the right there and face the jury, so they can all see. I'm going to tell them a little narrative, and I'll give you an opportunity to say anything you want. You turn around and face the audience. It may feel a little awkward, but they want to see you. I want to read some of this, so I want to make sure I get it right. But look, the town board takes obviously great pride in recognizing the outstanding and heroic actions of the town lifeguards over at Philip B. Healy Beach in Massapequa, who made a daring rescue of a woman who fell out of a skiff, I believe is the right word, back on July 2nd of this year, late in the afternoon. The woman who lives on Forest Avenue over in Massapequa was boating alone when a wave caused her to fall out of her boat into a busy boating channel situated approximately 150 feet off of the beach. And as her unmanned boat continued in a southerly direction, the fast-moving current took her to the north. And as soon as the 4 lifeguards who you see in front of you, lifeguards Ritter, Levine, Toscano, and Lander, observed her in the water, they sprang into action as a team. Lifeguard Ritter utilized a rescue kayak. He entered the water and traveled approximately 200 yards in order to make contact with the victim. He then extended a rescue tube to her and assisted her to a nearby residential dock. She was then safely picked up by a passing boat. So thanks to the fast action of the lifeguard team that you see before you, this potentially life-threatening event ended on a very, very positive note, thanks to the quick and skillful actions of, again, the lifeguard team you see in front of you. I just want to, off script, just want to say to them, I don't, not to say that lifeguards are taken for granted, but I think sometimes they are. Sometimes you see them sitting in the lifeguard nest or whatever it's called. I call it a nest. And they're looking out at the water, and you know, I don't know that anybody realizes, like many of our first responders, on a moment's notice, their own lives can be put into danger to save someone else's life or protect their well-being as well. It's a risky proposition, and they are fine young people, very talented young people, and we are grateful not only to the 4 lifeguards who are here today, but to all of the lifeguards, the men and women who are the lifeguards in the town of Oyster Bay. I think they deserve a very nice round of applause. Very, very well merited. So here's what I'll do. Why don't you, let's see, Michelle, why don't you give this to lifeguard Ritter, and Joe Pinto, lifeguard Toscano, Mr. McIgnone, lifeguard Levine, and I'd have Rebecca give it to lifeguard Lander. Go get him.
Congratulations.
And that short fellow there you see with the blue shirt is the father. Is the father of lifeguard Ritter, and has been with us. How long have you been with us, George?
43 years.
43 years on the water, yeah. Lifeguards, don't go away.
Oh, no?
Do you, don't go away. Is there a spokesperson for the team, or one of you who would prefer to speak as opposed, or if all 4 of you want to just address the town board? You know, you're among friends. It's nothing to be nervous about, even though thousands of people listening over the. No, I'm only kidding. You can be very comfortable here. Would anybody like to come forward and just talk about that day, or talk about lifeguards generally, your experience as lifeguards? You enjoy being a lifeguard? Take a chance. You enjoy being a lifeguard? You enjoy being a lifeguard in the town of Oyster Bay? Would anybody like to say anything? No takers?
Thank you so much for honoring us.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Yeah, you got it backwards. Thank you for what you do. And keep up the good work. Thank you. Now you're free to go. If it is, if the old adage is true that our future is only as bright as our young people, I think you'll have to agree by looking at that team and what they've done and what they do on a day-in, day-out basis. I think you have to agree that the future of the town of Oyster Bay is looking very, very bright. Good job. One more round of applause as they exit. Okay, now I think we can go to where I erroneously was driving us before. Mr. Altadonna, back to you and the call of the regular action calendar.
I have a motion to resolution P-10-16 and P-14-16. On the motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Councilman Muscarella, second by Councilman Mackey. On the vote, Supervisor Bendito?
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Councilman McEnroe.
Aye.
Councilman Pashangano.
Aye.
Councilman Pinto.
Aye.
Councilwoman Alessia.
Aye.
Councilwoman Johnson.
Aye.
Motion to adopt resolution P-10-16, TF-14-16 passes with 7 ayes.
But you know what, Jim, before you go any further, there's quite a number of speakers on the Beth Page situation. So is there a way to put the whole calendar in front of us?
That's what we're going to do.
Oh, okay,
We're
good.
gonna do it right now.
Good.
Okay. May I have a motion to adopt resolution number 414, 2016 through 437, 2016? On the motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Muscarella, second by Councilman McEnroe. Okay, go ahead, Supervisor.
All right, now, there are two resolutions, right? That's 433, and is there a second resolution? Excuse me?
4.
3 resolutions? 32, 33, and 34. Okay, so let's do it that way. I'm gonna, because I know we have a lot of speakers. Let's start with Teresa Buck. That's the first form I came to that has 433 reference. So, Teresa, if you want to come forward. Oh, you know what, Teresa, before, you just stay right there. If you just grab the NC. Maybe the better thing to do, John Ellsworth, where are you? Okay. John, why don't you create a frame of reference before Teresa and the remaining speakers come to us? Why don't you create a frame of reference as to what these resolutions are about and what's happening here?
Okay, there was mentioned 3 resolutions. 432 is actually a resolution for a monitoring well for the Navy in connection with their investigation of the plume that's coming off the Grumman site. 433 and 434 are related.
Sorry, 432, say the purpose of it again?
It's for a monitoring well for the big plume.
Only the placement of the monitoring well.
Correct. 433 and 434 are connected. They're in relation to the contamination plume that's coming off of the baseball field area at Bethpage Community Park. This board previously approved a remediation well in the parking lot B2 on Seaman Avenue in Bethpage. These 2 resolutions are for what are proposed to be the other 2 recovery wells, the wells that remove the contamination from the ground as part of a system I'll explain in a little while. The 433 is for the proposal is for a well at the intersection of Broadway and William Street, and 434 is for a well that's in the right-of-way to the east of Broadway, where the Navy installed their treatment plant in that easement area. That plant is on the west side of the Seaford Oyster Bay Expressway. These 3 wells are the initial component of a system that also will include vaults, boxes that are going to be installed in the ground to contain the controls for the wells, one at each of those locations. Pipes to convey the water to a new treatment plant, which is being proposed next to the plant that the Navy constructed in that easement I previously mentioned.
It doesn't exist, is it? Yet?
That plant doesn't exist. They're in the preliminary stages of design. I guess Northrop Grumman could speak to where they're at and what their schedule is for this overall program. I'm sure they're here today. They want to tell you what's going on. And then they also are looking at where, once they treat the water, where they're going to put it when they're done, and they're looking at possibly a new recharge basin in that same easement that the town owns. So besides the well that was already approved, these 2 wells that are on the agenda, Northrop Grumman will be before this board probably 2, 3, 4 more times for approvals for all those components I mentioned. And I'm not clear. I'm sure they can speak to what the timing is of all of those other components.
Okay, and at the end of the day, well, we're going to listen to everything because all of the information is critical to making as informed a decision as possible on these resolutions. But I'm going to guess that at the end of the day, as everybody likes to say in the new millennium, we have a situation where residents in the immediately impacted area are going to feeling woefully overburdened or, trying to think of the words, put out, to say the least, by the placement of these wells. And I suspect it's going to be the Northrop and position that this is the only place they can go. Is that what we have, kind of like the irresistible force or the immovable object kind of thing? Okay.
And just to add on what I said, the proposed location, the one that's of main concern, obviously, is at William Street and Broadway. That drilling operation is proposed to take approximately 3 months from when they get the approval. So there'll be a 60-foot high drill rig in the street during that period of time. Correct.
In the middle of the street.
In the middle of William Street to the east of Broadway.
That sounded a bit ominous.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's begin. Okay, Teresa, you're up.
Okay, so as a person whose house is right where the drilling would be, you know, if you look out my front door, it'd be right to the right. I'm concerned with real estate value. There'll be a 4-foot by 4-foot metal grate on the right next to the property. We already have the news reporters reporting there. I mean, Fios was there the other day reporting, scanning and doing pictures of all of our houses and mentioning the birth defects that are troubling Bethpage. I've never even heard of birth defects. So I just question why, you know, the other 2 remedial wells are in, you know, like public areas, and this is right on our property. And when you look at the visual of what the work zone would look like, you see the fencing looks really difficult to get out of your driveway, especially for my neighbor across the street, who is, you know, I wonder also when it gets possibly to like a snow time, how snowplows would even get to our driveways. And my neighbor across the street who couldn't make it here today, she's pregnant and due in December, so you question, you know, how, if you were stuck in your house with that. And then I question just our rights as a property owner. If, you know, the fence is on our property, the work zone area, it's, you know, what kind of rights do we have? They have to disconnect our electric and reconnect it to another pole. Just the fact that on Long Island, you know, you have a swimming pool in your backyard with kids off of school, and if this could be passed and started tomorrow, your backyard is unusable with the noise level of what this would be doing. And I guess that's my main questions.
Did you say you had a neighbor who also wanted to input the board but could not be here today?
Yeah, I mean, most people, when you look at the people that are here, a lot of people are working and they just can't take off of work to come here. There are a lot of neighbors that have something that...
Well, I'll tell you this, Teresa. I don't know where we're going yet, but I'll just throw this out there. Obviously, if we're going to decide these resolutions today, depending on what we hear, then it becomes academic. There'll be a direction one way or the other. If the board feels that it's going to need some additional time to make an informed decision, we will certainly give everybody in the neighborhood an opportunity over the next few weeks to submit to us in writing their comments or whatever, so they won't be foreclosed from saying what they want to say. So don't worry about that. But let's see where it goes this morning after we've heard all the speakers. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else you want to add? I'm sorry.
No, I'm just, I know that we don't own the property that's right next to the street, but when it comes to your actual property and like a fence being on your property, them pruning your tree that's on your property in the front lawn, I just question what kind of rights do we have if we don't, we're going to have a permanent box, like a 4-foot by 4-foot metal grate that's kind of a sign right there. This is where the toxic plume is coming up, and I was trying to sell my house before I was even aware of this. So it does affect me for that reason.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. I also have Richard Buck, so why don't we, Richard, I take it you and Teresa are related somehow? in a nice way. Good morning, Richard.
Obviously, I'm the husband. My main concern was the placement of the equipment. Like, if you go look at the north well they're doing, they're telling me that it's going to go like parallel to the sidewalk, and the width of the equipment is going to be a lot wider. It's going to approach on my property. That's my main concern. And
On your property.
Did they have a meeting with the residents in the area to go through it, or they just came to the house?
That's another issue. They're not telling everybody in the whole neighborhood. Me and my wife are going around giving letters to everybody in the neighborhood to know what's going on.
So there was no, involvement from the community as to, where you're going to go and get your input. We're trying to do now, inform us.
Yes and no. They're not like, it's kind of like top secret in a way, what they're doing. And they are very helpful. They do answer questions, but still, they have stuff up in the air right now. I'm asking them this morning. Oh, I don't know. They're still working on that. They were out in front of my house yesterday. I go, what about the placement equipment? No, one guy, the actual drilling company says they're all put on an angle. This morning, they told me they're going to put it parallel to the sidewalk. They still have a lot of issues to work out.
Okay, interesting.
And then also, Grumman hired Arcadius. Arcadius hired Unitech, is this drilling company. Unitech only does, vertical drills. All right, they don't do directional drilling. If they could do directional drilling down just east of us is the right of way down there. They hire another company, it's a company in Connecticut that does it. And for me to contact them, I got to email them all the other stuff. And of course, they're going to say, oh, they can't drill here on Long Island because of the way the earth is. It'll collapse and all this other stuff. But I don't think they want to spend the money.
What would you like is a plan with contact people and everything else, even before we approve this? You'd like to have everything set where you know what company, who to contact, everything?
Yeah. Or have another drilling company look at it. Unitech is their only subcontractor.
I understand what you're saying, but you'd like to have all this information before it gets approved.
Yeah.
And everything's set.
If they could do directional drilling by another contractor, that'll be a lot better for everybody, though. Everybody on William Street, they won't be affected. They're ripping up the street, our street's getting shut down. We can't even drive on the street.
I think what the councilman is saying, and we can speak for himself, but the way I understood it, and I would be very much on board, I think what might be helpful listening to Teresa and you speak, I think the councilman is saying, wouldn't you rather see a more comprehensive plan beforehand with all of the graphics laid out for you as to exactly what's going to be done, who's going to be doing it, and whatever other questions you may have. It sounds like yourself and Teresa, I suspect other residents in the area are probably very unfulfilled at this point. So I think the councilman's suggestion might be a good one. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, you should probably let them do their presentation first, then have us do our questions.
Okay. Well, we're going to be hearing from them, so we'll see what they have to say. I'm sorry, Richard. You go ahead. Anything else you want to tell us?
No, that's it.
Okay, good. Thank you. I would, by the way, for the residents who are here, I would suggest that, if you can, to stick around until after we hear from the Northrop side, if you will, and because you may have some other thoughts or things you want to tell us in response to that. But let me keep going. John Kenner. John?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. John Kenner, 33 William Street. I live on the corner of Broadway and William.
Good morning, John.
We spoke about this at the last meeting. I've sent you an email letter about my concerns. I talk to John Ellsworth almost on a weekly basis about our concerns in the neighborhood. Other residents are going to give their issues as far as what's, how it impacts them. I'm on the west side of Broadway. Initially, their first draft of this plan was to actually shut down Broadway and William Street. And they've since revised that plan to just now move the well to the east side of Broadway. So now William Street, down Broadway is open. But my concern, we had a meeting with them on the 28th of July, and it was question and answer, and they made their presentation again. It just seems like you just spoke about a comprehensive plan. This doesn't seem like a comprehensive plan. This seems like piecemeal. They're starting at the beginning, but they have the end has not been addressed yet. And by that I mean they're talking about a well, 3 wells that are going to be pumping, from what I understand, 500 gallons a minute, all day, every day for 7 days a week. And that leads to a total of 2 million gallons of water a day going into this discharge basin on the right-of-way, by the local right-of-way. And when this was asked, I asked one of the Arcadis representatives there, can this discharge basin handle that water? Not counting any other unforeseen weather issues like a tropical storm or anything else, hurricane, snow, whatever. They're talking constant 2 million gallons a day, every day for how many years? They're talking about 10 years. And his response was, we're looking into it. So how do they know that 3 wells are even viable at this point, at this location? I know John mentioned something about, John Ellsworth mentioned something about they're doing a survey, maybe another discharge basin, but it seems like that's after the horse. They haven't done their due diligence here as far as this project is concerned. It seems like it's a rush to get the wells dug, and they don't have the end at this point. They don't have what they're going to do with the water at the end, besides not even building this plant yet. So, we all understand the importance of what they're trying to do here, finally, Grumman, but, obviously, as residents, we have our concerns. So, and then the other thing is that, the trenching of the old William Street, to put this pipe that they're going to run from the well at the corner all the way to the end, all the way to east to the right-of-way. William Street is basic, regular street in Nassau County, has utilities. There's a complex series of utilities under the ground in the street, and they have to deal with those too. And 3 months doesn't seem like it's a very conservative estimate for this type of project that they're talking about just on William Street.
All right, John, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Helene Richardson, it's Helene, right? Richardson? Come on up, Helene. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I live on the corner of William and Broadway, and I'm along with Terry Buck and her husband. We would be the most impacted by this drilling.
Mrs. Richardson, are you on the east side or the west side? Closer to 135 or closer to
East.
So if they closed off William Street, you'd be really inconvenienced.
Right, because I'm the corner house. Terry and Richard east of me.
We're looking at an aerial view, that's why.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm the corner. The corner where the plan to put the 4x4 grate over the property, this is where they intend to put it. We did ask at the last meeting if perhaps that grate could be put in the street, because placement on my grassy area over there defines me as the problem, as opposed to a problem concerning Bethpage. There was no response to that. One of the other concerns that we have regarding this is that's a school bus stop. And nobody seems to be addressing where are these children going to be rerouted. Kellenberg picks up at that corner, and the elementary schools. I'm not sure if the middle school does also in that area. We never get answers to these questions. We propose them, and we're looking into it, And to move forward with a project of this magnitude, looking into it at this point is not enough for us. So that's really all I have to say. Everybody spoke ahead of me.
That's fine, thank you.
All right, those comments seem to also be in line with, I guess, unanswered questions, for lack of a better way of characterizing it, but again, all pointing towards needing more information, seeing more of a plan, if you will, as to what the heck is going on. Is that
Absolutely, and up until the last meeting, which I believe was on the 28th, when we mentioned the fact that this was a school bus stop, it was almost like immaterial, like we'll look into it, or almost like they were the deer in the headlights, not realizing that children are impacted. The Buck children are impacted because they pick up the bus at that intersection. So these are concerns that have not been addressed to our satisfaction.
Yeah, Helene, Obviously, they have an important job to do. Many thousands of, maybe even tens of thousands of residents, in on the South Shore, from Bethpage going down to Farmingdale, the Massapequa, and what have you, are very concerned about this. So it's the town board's job in deciding his resolutions to balance, the overall interests of the overall welfare of the community generally, but not necessarily to unduly place burdens on the immediately impacted area. So we're very cognizant of that. We very much hear what you're saying today. We're going to be hearing from Northrop as well. So stand by, and we'll do our best to do the right thing.
Thank you, and thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too. Patricia Kivo, am I saying it right? Is it Kivo? Good morning, Patricia.
Good morning. I really don't have much to add. I think the neighbors pretty much covered what our concerns are. What it boils down to is I've got probably 4 different diagrams here of what's going to go on that corner. Some of the possibilities put it not in front of my house, but directly in front of Helene's house. Helene is directly next door to me. So we really don't know. Obviously, Chris and Terry and Rich, Helene and Terry and Rich are going to be the most impacted. But those of us who are within, I'm going to say even 100 feet, are going to bear the brunt of what's going on here. We need information, and I think we'd really all like to hear what they have to say today, and perhaps address whatever concerns we have after they make their presentation.
Okay. By the way, don't fear being repetitious. We look at it more in terms of your reinforcing. So if there's other things that have been said, but you want to reinforce them to the board, that's okay too, whatever you're comfortable telling us.
We have a 60-foot tower. I've heard there is a 60-foot tower. I've heard there's not a 60-foot tower. I think I'm pretty much convinced there is going to be a 60-foot tower. I've seen the towers at the other 2 locations. We have a location north of us. We have a location south of us. It's also a concern that both of those drills are, one's in a right-of-way, one's in a parking lot. And we're the only ones that are going to have a drill within, I'm going to say conservatively, 30 feet of a home. So we have safety issues. There are kids. We just don't know what's going to go on with this. Aside from the fact that we don't know how long it's going to last, we're anticipating it's going to be longer.
Trust me, if they say 3 months, you might as well count them 4.5.
And we are. I think we're all planning on that. But again, there's an issue if we do run into the winter. If you look at the current plan we're looking at now, you have 2 driveways that are just pretty much going to be, if it snows, virtually useless. They're just landlocked. There's no way anyone's getting in there. The fencing looks like it appears to be right up to the 2 driveways. So we all have concerns. We have concerns for ambulances. We're an emergency on Broadway. We're an emergency route. We have concerns. We appreciate the fact that now Broadway is not being closed, but we still have concerns.
Okay. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you.
William Danielson. William? Morning, Bill. How are you? Prefer Bill or William? What do you like?
I have just 2 questions, and one I think you've already touched upon the answer to. First question is, why not drill a few blocks east or south of William Street and Broadway where there is open land, where it would be less of a burden on any homeowner?
I think everybody has that.
Okay. Now, as I was speaking to Diane earlier, she mentioned how they'll be drilling down 700 feet. Now, if you're drilling down 700 feet, I don't see why you have to drill perfectly vertical. If you have a long distance to get down there, why can't you do it on an angle, which would bring it over as far as 2 blocks over where there is open land? Now, I'm sure there are good reasons, and maybe you don't have the answer to that, but I don't understand why not. To inconvenience all these homeowners the way they're going to do, needlessly, and I think it's needlessly, I just don't understand. And my second question is...
Get that answer on the record this morning.
Okay. Second question is, how is Northrop Grumman planning to compensate the homeowners near William Street and Broadway for the inconvenience, the likely decrease in property value, the damage to trees on private property, and the power interruptions associated with the drilling? I mean, where they're doing it puts an undue burden on the immediate residents of that area. And, you know, if you're a couple of blocks away, well, maybe you're going to hear a little noise, but you're not going. William Street is going to be closed off for 3 months. And Diane said, well, it'll be done, they'll be out of there by the time the first snowflake falls. Well, that may or may not be true. But if they're not there, you're going to have a problem with plowing the street. Cars will won't be able to get through there, even without the snow. So it's quite a burden.
Okay, well said. Thank you, Bill. All right, I don't have any other forms from anyone who indicated they care to address the board relative to this matter, but other than the Northrop and DEC team, I'll call them side or whatever, is there anyone else who cares to address the board relative to this matter? All right, John Ellsworth, you want to come back? Where are you? And maybe introduce us to our guests this morning, our other guests this morning.
Representatives from Northrop Grumman are here. I have been in close communication with them for weeks now about this proposal coming before the town board. And I think Ed Hannon is their environmental manager. Sorry if I didn't get the title correct. And he has people from Arcadis who are their engineering consultants.
I'm sorry,
Arcadis.
I asked it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And representatives from DEC who is overseeing the project. They're here also. So I'll hand it off to Ed, and he'll run the presentation, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Let me start by welcoming everybody to the town of Oyster Bay. We appreciate you being here this morning, and Ed, you'll be the quarterback, I guess, to get us going. Okay, the floor is yours.
First, I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to speak. And I was listening this morning, a lot of great questions came up. We have a presentation quite extensive that we're prepared. We also have it in a printed matter, and we can leave it with the town council if you wish.
Sure, absolutely.
We'll also provide it to John electronically, so he could have it. That might be more convenient for you.
That'd be great.
And
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. If you could turn the easel so that they still call it an easel, right? Still call it an easel? Yeah, turn it so that we can all, we'll up here, don't worry about us. Let's make sure the audience sees it. If you back it up a little bit, but we have other materials, so. Oh, you don't have them now? Okay. Yeah, if you just move it past Matt Rose's head, that would work. Okay. All right, that's good. That's fine.
Can you see it? Yes.
We'll figure it out.
Great. All right, my name is Ed Hannon. I'm the Environmental Health, Safety, and Medical Manager for Northrop Grumman and the Project Manager for this project. This morning, we'd like to speak to you specifically about the RW20 and RW22 projects. The RW20 project is a well. Back in 2014 and 2015, Northrop Grumman put in 14 wells on 3 transects across the community to sample the quality of the water, to define the parameters of the plume. With using that information, we developed a remedial approach to that. That remedial approach was submitted to the state and New York State DEC, and New York State DEC accepted that approach. We're now implementing that approach. The first phase of that approach was the RW21 well up in the overflow municipal parking lot, and putting in a couple of vertical profile borings, testing the water quality further south to define precisely where we're going to put the RW22 well. We've already been getting that data in, and we have defined where we're going to place the RW22 well. Today, most of the residents were speaking about the RW20 well located on Broadway and William Street. We have some details there. We've been very grateful to meet with them and have dozens of email communications and a few phone calls. And with that, we've been modifying the plan as we've been going along. Hence, it looks like there's continuous change. This is progress. This is continuous progress, tightening up the project to meet the request and the demands of the residential community, and to pull things off of Broadway. The initial plan, the sampling that was conducted in 2014, hang on a second, this will work better. We defined the parameters of the plume, the highest areas of concentration to be in this area. We went across 3 transects, that's the black lines you see here, here, and here. This is William Street. This is Arthur Avenue. That's the recharge basin. That's the Navy GM38 property. This is the Seaford Oyster Bay Expressway. This is Central Avenue right here to give you your bearings. And that's the LIRR. RW20, we determined that from looking at the data that this is the prime location, this is the prime location to capture the RW20 at the center part of the plume and to pull it in without having a negative impact on any other public water supplies in the area. If you go to the next slide. This will give you sort of an aerial view snapshot of what the overall, what we're calling the RW21 project area. The RW21 project area has 3 wells, RW21 well, RW22 well, and RW20 well. So 20, 21, and 22. This is William Street. This is Broadway, Central Avenue, Seaford Oyster Bay Expressway. This is an electric utility easement that runs on the west side between Central and roughly Arthur Avenue down here. And that utility easement continues west here, and there's a recharge basin here. The RW20 and 22 is the permits that we're here for today. RW21, the town has already approved. That work is up here. It's commenced. They're down deep. They're well over 400 foot by now. Is that correct? Well over 400 foot depth. So we've got the soil geology and the water hydrology quality data coming in now. RW22 is down here. We have vertical profile borings that are off out of this image right here on Wilson Street and Broadway on the west side of Wilson. That's going very, very well, and there we're very deep in the water quality data and soil data is coming in now. It's a multi-phased approach. The pink lines show the first phase of the piping. The yellow lines show the second phase of the piping. What we're going to do after meeting with the town and having numerous discussions with the town, it was decided the most logical and the least impact on the community was to tie those pipelines in and get them out to a major thoroughfare while we're doing that construction work and putting the vault and the well in. So that's what we're doing. We're running simultaneous projects. So we're putting the well in now. We'll begin excavating and preparing to put the vault in. At that time, we'll trench out to the main thoroughfare and put our pipe in, and then we'll cap it. And we'll come back to do phase 2 piping at a later time. This way we're out of the community, out from behind the church over here.
What is the timeline on phase 1?
Phase 1, we have the timeline that's coming up.
Okay, all right, go. You're doing your sequence.
Thank you very much. If we go to the next slide. Initially, this was the plan for RW20, using the equipment that we had intended on utilizing. We were going to have the equipment staged here. It would have cut off Broadway and both the east and west side of William Street, excuse me. After meeting with the residents and the local fire department and speaking to the police department, we learned that that's a major emergency thoroughfare and the school bus system runs up and down there. So we went back. We redesigned our plans and we made some changes. By the way, I'd like to point out that the red lines are overhead power lines on here. So
overhead power lines?
Yes, they're overhead power lines. There are utilities in the streets as well, and we have a diagram later that will point that out to you to show you why we chose the pipe route that we're suggesting. here for the RW20 well, but the red lines represent overhead power lines. Before we go to the next slide. After meeting with the residents and hearing what their concerns were and meeting with the fire department, we went back and we were looking at changing the equipment, changing our process, putting in a sewer line directly to the sewer and bring it to the work zone so we wouldn't have to be on Broadway, that we could tuck ourselves in on William Street and leave Broadway free flowing. We looked at relocating the RW20 well at several other locations in the community. We looked at eliminating RW20, which didn't work because we would not meet the ROD, the requirements of the ROD, and we would not satisfy New York State DEC's requirements to capture 90% of the mass in a transect in that location, and that's what this plan does and that well does. We looked at using directional drilling. Directional drilling had numerous complications. I could just briefly speak to them now, and we could ask the Arcadis team to speak a little more technical. But what it is it's more than a quarter mile in length. The borehole through the soil geology on Long Island wouldn't support, it would collapse. The other issue is that the pump would be on its side and it wouldn't last. As a result, after going through all this expense and this difficulty and this inconvenience to the town and the highway departments, etc., having to drill on the east side of the Seaford Oyster Bay Expressway to be able to target the approximate zone, in speaking with the experts, we learned that there was no guarantee that that well would last for the life of the project. In fact, there was no guarantee how long that well would last without it collapsing or running into other technical problems like blowing the pumps, having problems with screens, etc. The Arcadis team could speak.
Why is that? Is there something peculiar or inordinate about our topography or geology?
Our geology is sand, clay, and gravel, all different types of gravel, loose gravel, etc. And the borehole wouldn't maintain its shape. And there's not enough pressure, outward pressure of water to hold that in place. So even though we could sleeve the first vertical part, which would be 100, before we turn directionally west for the remaining 1,200 feet, there's no guarantee that borehole wouldn't collapse. The proposed reconfiguration as a result of meeting with the community and speaking with the town and interfacing with different town members is that we came up with this reconfigured work zone. The reconfigured work zone stays off of Broadway, has no negative impact traffic-wise to the west side of William Street. On the east side, what we did was we pulled the footprint in tighter. This sidewalk remains open. This driveway is open. There is no driveway on this corner house. And we would work in the town easement area here with the rig. The rig may or may not be diagonal, but and also we modified the plate. The plate will not be 4x4. We're going to talk to a custom fabricator. We're going to make a custom plate that actually fits right into the grassy area there. And it'll be the size of the grassy area. And we're going to have to paint the plate painted green. So at least a cosmetic impact. The electrical utilities. The utilities are currently overhead here, and they run across to these two homes here. We'll hire a contractor.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Blue lines are where you are, facilities and
The footprint, that's correct.
You're blocking off William Street in its entirety.
We're blocking off the west corner of William Street in its entirety. That's correct. The end of the street is right over here. I don't want to point the laser, but
There's a dead end on there.
no, it's not. It's a couple. That block is only a couple of houses in length, and then there's North Vandenhurst. Is it Van Horst?
But there's a dead end right after that.
It's a few blocks down.
Yeah.
All right, so the electric at present comes from a pole here and goes across to these two homes. We'll work with the utility company. They'll put in a temporary line here and they'll connect to the house. That shouldn't take any more than it typically does, perhaps an hour or so. It won't be a long downtime.
How long will the street be
approximately 3 months. It'll be 11 to 12 weeks.
You'd be working 10-hour days?
No, well, we'll follow town code unless you give us a variance. It's 7 a.m. to 5 p.m.
That's 10-hour days.
Yeah, oh, well, union workers, lunch breaks and breaks, but yes. So with regards to the concerns we heard here, we have a custom plate being fabricated. It will not protrude onto the sidewalk. It will remain in the town easement and that grassy strip along the road. The plate will be painted green. We looked into putting the plate and the vault in the street, and we can't because there'll be problems with the plow. The rating of the vault and the lid, this plate, as it's called, it's the hatch to get down into the vault where the electronics and the pump are, the controls are. The plows will hit that and damage it. Next slide. The Arcadis representatives, Mike Wolford and Chris Engler, they're going to speak to the technical aspects here. These are utilities, which is rather difficult to see from where you are, but there's gas lines and other utilities in the street, and they're going to explain to the board why we chose the path and how we're going to route the pipeline to minimize the impact and have no negative impact on the utilities, so we won't disrupt the utilities.
Okay, Ed, thank you. You're introducing, is
Yes,
this
Mike Wolford and Chris Engler is going to speak first.
Sure. Michael's first. Chris? Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Chris Engler with Arcadis. I'm the engineer of record for the project. We have obviously a team of multidisciplined engineers working on the project. I'm a mechanical engineer, and we'll speak to the pipe route and the vault configuration on Williams. This is now pertinent to RW20. So if you can see, I know it's a little bit of a distance for you to see, but this is William Street. Broadway is here to the west, and our vault is planned to go right about here, about halfway down that first yard on William Street. And then if you get an opportunity later on to look more closely at the slide, you'll see we've embedded the various utilities that are in William Street. There is stormwater, sanitary drain, domestic water, electricity. I take that back, natural gas. The electricity is overhead. Due to the configuration of the utilities in the street, there's a high concentration of utilities here on the first block west of Broadway, or I'm sorry, east of Broadway. And for that reason, the effluent pipe coming out of the vault that will contain the water will cross the street to the south on Williams and then proceed down the south side of William. And then at this next intersection, we'll cross back over again to avoid utilities that are in this southern section of William and proceed. And this is where the pipeline will be capped for this first phase and later connected to the second phase of piping. This area right here represents the Greenway. It's a utility corridor that's fairly wide open and ultimately will be used to convey the pipe that will bring the water from RW20 in that municipal lot to the north down to the treatment plant, which is located a little further south on that Greenway. It's going to be in the vicinity of the current Navy GM38 plant. We also have on this board a depiction, it's an enlarged view. This is a plan view of the vault. The vault is represented here by this rectangular dashed line. That will be the concrete vault that will house the wellhead and the various electronic controls that go along with operating the well and the pump. The hatchway will be located here, as Ed Hannon was mentioning, in this strip of grass that's sandwiched between the curb that's here and the sidewalk that's further north. So the vault footprint will encompass the sidewalk. Of course, the sidewalk will be restored when we're done.
The hatch cover will be painted green, that's a plus.
That's right, yeah. So that hatch is now dimensionally 2 foot by 3 foot. The original plan was a 4 by 4 hatch in the sidewalk. We've moved it into that green space and again, try to minimize visual impacts. This off to the right is a section view of the vault, and again, you'll see a lid. There'll be a series of rungs to access from the top of the vault down into the vault. The wellhead will be here below, and then the rest of the vault will be used for the equipment we need to operate the pump and motor. Are there any questions on material? Sure.
I thought I understood this, but I don't understand this. What's the purpose here of these wells? Okay, I mean, are we gonna take the water out and get rid of it? Because the people in Bethpage have been suffering for a long time with this issue. Okay, and I really think Grumman, has been, dragging their feet a little bit, well, a lot of it, on this issue. So what's the purpose here? Are we gonna take this water out and get rid of it, or are we gonna treat it, put it back into the ground?
It's going to be treated in the new treatment plant that will be constructed, and then it'll be discharged to the groundwater retention basin near Arthur Avenue, and we are either going to discharge directly into that basin or construct an adjacent basin to take the water.
So we're planning on doing this, and we're gonna be going after the entire plume?
Well, there's two separate plumes. This plume that we're talking about today is exclusive to the eastern plume. There is another plume that is west of this plume. It's larger in size. This project has nothing to do with that.
Okay, so help me understand. How long is it gonna take, or is this treatment facility gonna be there forever?
We're estimating somewhere between 10 and 15 years that this will be operating, unless the state criteria changes and they hold us to a different standard. We expect to accomplish our goal. It's 10 to 12 years. I'm saying 15 to give us some leeway.
So there's no plan to remediate the entire plume?
That is going to remediate.
No, you're treating it. There's no plan to remediate the plume?
That treating is remediating.
No, it's not. It's treating. I'm asking you a question. Are you going to remediate the plume?
Our treatment will remediate the plume.
In 15 years? Would remediation be more effective to get it done earlier?
I'm sorry, treatment is remediation.
But you're going to do it in 15 years. Would a true remediation get it done earlier?
It went from 30, 25 to 30 years. And with this new plan, with the 3 wells, we brought it down to approximately half of that.
Okay, we could agree to disagree.
I'm sorry, not following.
Well, I think that this is I think this is like a Band-Aid. I think the people here deserve more, and I understand why you're doing this now, but I think this has been going on for a long time.
I'll call to the state experts.
Okay.
How long will it take to build the treatment facility plan? When do you intend to break ground? Are the plans for that?
If we get approved today, we will be treating water by the summer next year.
I understand the residents' concerns and the property values. Have we considered purchasing maybe a home, taking it down and making that just doing drilling on that, and
that is something we will look at.
Thank you.
Anything for Chris?
Okay.
I have one more question. The wells will be active pretty much immediately after this 3-month period, or not until the treatment facility plant is in place? This is just in preparation.
Correct.
That 2 million gallons a day of water that the resident was speaking about earlier, that's not going to come out of the
That's
pool
correct.
until
It won't
everything-
flow until everything is constructed, all phases, yes. Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. We have Michael.
Good morning. My name is Mike Wolford. I work for Arcadius. I'm a hydrogeologist, and I've been with the firm for approximately 45 years.
Okay. You don't even look that old.
Excuse me?
All right, that video stopped because the town cut the live stream, and I have proof of that because I was recording the video live just as I'm doing this off a laptop. And you'll see that in another video.